Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is having a good day, holiday weekend. We are not having a live program per se, but we are going to be live, so people can still get together and uh, chat on the Sabbath. So, gotta give you everyone some bad news today. I found out a little while ago that Mike Partridge, a longtime minister in a church, died today. So if you could keep his family, his wife Annie, and his family, his daughter, in your prayers, that would be great. But we're gonna start out with the program. We'll jump right in it, and we'll see everyone in the chat room. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Ken.
Good to see you, gentlemen. We're back live again this week after being away for the last couple of weeks due to high days. And we just, during that period of time, we would have celebrated our 9th year we've been doing this. So we've been doing this for quite a while. And last week, I couldn't help but noticing when I played that best of show that at one point I couldn't believe we had made it to 99 programs. Now we're at 430. So tonight we're doing episode 430, a thorough investigation of Judge Not That You Not Be Judged. So, Dr. Ricks, if you would take us out, that'd be great.
Okay, we're going to do some animal groaners. This mother mouse and her baby mouse are walking through the woods, and suddenly a cat comes out and jumps at them. And the mother mouse says, "Yell, bark, bark." So they yell, "Bark, bark, bark." The cat suddenly is startled and spins around and runs away. And the mother mouse says, "See, I told you learning a second language would be valuable." Yeah, that's a good groaner. This is one I like. You got to listen carefully. It's a very short joke. These tourists didn't really know what to make of buffaloes. But anyway, some of the buffaloes were grazing on the range. And one of the back tourists that didn't know what they were saying said, "Look at how mangy the hair is and how scroungy these beasts look. They're not well groomed like my little poodle dog." And one buffalo turned to another buffalo and said, "I just heard a discouraging word." I just heard a discouraging word. Okay. A mother rattlesnake, baby rattlesnake runs to his mama, and the baby rattlesnake's, "Mama, mama, are we really very, very poisonous?" And the mama rattlesnake says, "Yes." He says, "I just bit my tongue." It kind of reminds me of America. America is its own worst enemy. There's a lot of truth to that. It's just bit our own tongue. Anyway. Okay. Thorough investigation of Judge Not That You Be Not Judged. A lot of times you'll be wanting to, what's happened to me personally, tell some young person that what's right and what's wrong, and they'll say, "Don't judge me. The Bible says it's wrong. You're judging me." So some of you have heard that and been used in literature. Let's look at a deep dive into what that scripture really means. By the way, Jesus was frequently criticized by the religious leaders of his nation. They were always looking for opportunities to criticize him and his disciples. And he confronted their hypocrisy about, judge not that you be not judged. He put it in a great context that we should always remember, because like all of Christ's teachings, he made a point to the religious leaders, criticizing them, but also it's good for us when you understand it correctly. Can you read Matthew 7, please, for us, Ken?
Judge not that you be not judged, for with that what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not consider the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, and look, a plank is in your own eye? Hypocrite! First remove the plank from your own eye, then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye.
First point I want to make, if you think about that little lesson that Christ gave them, or teaching, he wasn't saying you can't help correct other people. He was saying, you all are a bunch of hypocrites. Because you realize the Pharisees, when they were out there pointing the finger, you heard that expression, if you point a finger at somebody else, you got four pointing back at you. Well, what he's saying to the Pharisees, I think they actually convinced themselves that they were pure and righteous, and God really, they and God were just like this. Do you think they really believed that? They were so self-deluded?
Absolutely, they did.
And that is dangerous thinking. Dangerous thinking. And what do you mean we got a plank in our own eye? But that's really how God saw it. What he's telling them, you're a bunch of hypocrites. You think you're so good. You're not nearly as good as you think you are. And I'm almost tempted to say, if you see somebody being praised to high heaven, this man is a Superman. He's super righteous. He's super heroic. He's never done anything in his life. Or it could be a woman. And they do a little press PR thing on him. And I saw a press PR thing on our vice president. And it practically made her out like to be a saint. I think Disney made it. If you ever see it, you'll want to barf. But don't you have that? Whenever they tell you, or they tell you, or their PR people and supporters tell you how wonderful they are, aren't you always suspicious?
Of course, anything that comes from the media, I suspect, it's always either a hack piece or a puff piece to try and push their agenda down the line.
It's like, I don't know, this movie star, I don't even know all about it because I don't follow it, but this movie star, I think his name is Johnny Depp, but if I get it wrong, somebody will probably email you, Ken. He and his wife are going through a bitter divorce. And I'm hearing some stuff that went on in their house. I can't believe how low they would go. And you probably thought this guy was a heroic movie star living a life of paradise and luxury. And man, I thought, wow. Did any of you hear any of that, Ken?
A little bit I see on Twitter once in a while. I don't follow it, but if I happens to pop in, I might.
I saw a little bit of I think it was Greg Gutfeld's show. I was shocked. I thought, wow. And probably everybody admires this guy as a movie star and her as handsome, beautiful movie star's wife, or whatever she is. And I thought, man, all I'm saying is a lot of people put up a good front, but rarely is anybody as good as they may pretend to be.
Another thing is the people that throw that verse at you, especially when it's not amongst the brethren. If someone throws that verse at you, 99% chance they don't believe in the Bible to begin with. They're just trying to use this tactic to shut you down and take you off balance. And you should never allow them to do that. You never allow them to put you on your heels. You need to, say, how dare you try to throw that at me? You don't even believe the Bible, and you have no idea who he was talking to or what context it was in. So who are you to tell me what I need to be doing or that I shouldn't be doing because I'm a Christian and you're not? And I see this all the time when people try to use it, especially non-Christians. Use this against Christians to shut down the argument. No, it don't work. It don't work with me. You're not getting off that easy.
Any thoughts, Dave, about people putting up a good front or trying to throw you off balance?
No, I mean, I'm just not around people. I mean, so I don't really have a comment on that. Everybody around me just doing what I tell them to do, you know.
That must be great. They do what you tell them to do, right?
Well, I throw them out, you know.
You don't get a lot of lip.
Not my business. I don't.
Like we know how to do this even better than you thought we did.
No.
None of that. Oh, it must be great.
No.
I heard.
We have a culture in our school. I bark, you jump. I'm a dictator.
That's great. We were saying that Putin is also a student of judo or some variation thereof. And tell me what you said about Putin's background. I think people might find it interesting. Wasn't that you that said it?
Well, Putin was born, bred, and raised, and groomed to be from his whole life to become who he is. It's not by accident. So, you know, in countries like Russia, nothing's by accident like that.
And when you said when he was young kid, kids picked on him, so he studied judo so he could rough them up.
I never heard that.
Well, that's what I heard. But do you think? I know it's off the subject, and I'm sure the KGB groomed him or somebody inside, put him on the fast track. But do you think Satan also groomed him?
I think Satan groomed almost every politician. So it don't have to be over there. I mean, look at ours over here. Look in the White House. You see Biden turn around and shake hands. Nobody was there. Well, we didn't see him. But
maybe Biden saw somebody there.
I'm told he saw the Grim Reaper. Reached out to him.
Anyway, getting back to the subject, somebody told me this. I heard it, that in defense of liberals, I don't know if these stats are correct. They said Bill Clinton was defending liberalism using the Bible. He said that you conservatives talk about whatever responsible things they did. He said, Bill Clinton said, that Jesus talked about giving to the poor many, many more times than he talked about, being obedient, being responsible, doing the right thing. I thought, wow, I never heard that before, but I don't know if I could deny that it is true. The only difference is when Christ talked about helping the poor, he meant charity. He didn't mean government enforced, like I'm going to take your money by taxes backed by armed men and give it to the poor to buy votes. He was talking about charity, but they don't see that distinction. But can you see where that's a great argument for a socialist? That Christ mentioned taking care of the poor and other people in the Bible as well.
Yeah, but I think he was talking on a personal basis. Dave Overstreet helped out somebody. Yeah. I don't think he was saying tax everybody until you can never own anything again and give it to whatever, while you personally live in, multi-million-dollar mansions. Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, a lot of government money that's gone on to all this bailout was stolen by fraud. They've now come up with all kind of big figures. Well, anyway, getting back to stuff, the Pharisees really were degenerate sinners, but they didn't see it. they did not see it. And I think that's why this next scripture, verse 6, is important. Christ put this in here, but I think he was making a point. I don't know if they got it, but could you read verse 6, please, Ken?
Do not give what is holy to the dogs, nor cast your pearls before swine, yes, lest they trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces.
In other words, let's say if you want to give some advice to someone that you're doing the wrong thing, here's what you should be doing, what you should not be doing. Maybe Christ is also telling the audience there that there are people like the Pharisees who are so spiritually low down, like dogs and swine. They're not going to really benefit from your good advice or judging, or they'll just turn and attack you. And I've wanted to tell some people several things on airplanes, some other places, and I just knew it'd be a waste of time. They would just turn and attack me. They wouldn't appreciate the pearl of wisdom I was trying to give them. So I kept my mouth shut. It took some effort, but I did it. Oh well. And I think he was including the Pharisees in that category. Let's go to Matthew 7:7.
Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you.
So, like, if you want deep understanding, truth, and good advice, part of what Christ is saying, ask for it. And maybe someone will give you advice and you'll be wise enough to benefit from it. But the ones that are too piggish, they wouldn't even be able to appreciate it. Just humbly ask God for deeper understanding and you will get it. Now, I want to make a distinction here between condemnation and judgment. Because there's a difference between the word judging or evaluating someone's actions and condemnation. And that's, I think, something we need to see. Let's look at Luke 6:37, please, Ken.
Judge not, and you shall not be judged. Condemn not, and you shall not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be put into your bosom. For with the same measure that you use, it will be measured back to you.
And that is, see, if you have a retaliatory, vengeance, angry spirit toward other people, you don't want God evaluating you with that same kind of spirit. But also, I think giving people advice, saying, I'm, judging what your actions aren't real good, you could be doing them a favor. But condemnation, I think, is a little bit different. Because condemnation is saying your ultimate goal is a lake of fire or total disaster. And we really don't know that and can't know that, right? And what's interesting? If you go to, there's something on the web you can get called Profiles in People. I think it's Profiles in People. And you can look at the life of a famous person like Benjamin Franklin and a whole bunch of people. They had their ups and downs, and maybe downs and ups. But it often prepared them for fulfilling a great role in history and for their family and for America and for the community. So at any one point, you might have judged them as a troubled young man or problems. But does that make any sense? But condemning them, their ultimate fate, I think, is really not up to us to do.
Well, we're supposed to have discernment. and I don't know that it's my job to condemn anybody, but we should have spiritual discernment. I mean, we should pray for discernment, and not just in the Bible, but discerning, who should be around us, what we should, who are we going to spend our emotions and time with,
Yeah, some people aren't worth. I mean, God will take care of them later, but as far as we're concerned, they're not worth our efforts. They're too far gone, and they'd be too bad an influence on us, right?
There's a guy, try not to find a way to say it, didn't have anything to do with the church, but somebody injunction on this guy, domestic violence injunction, told me his name and said, go look him up. So I know who the guy is. I don't know him. I've talked to him, but I don't know him. And this guy's got multiple child rape arrests and convictions, multiple battery under 12-year-old. I mean, so I don't have the right to condemn the guy. I certainly don't have the right to execute the guy. But my opinion is, go ahead. If it was my kid, this conversation would be happening because they won't let me Zoom from prison.
No, I mean, anybody who tells you they don't judge people is lying to you. You see people on the street, if someone's coming at you and he looks like an axe murderer out of a B movie from the 80s, you're going to cross to the other side of the road. You're not going to go near this person. I mean, people judge people on a constant basis. And the people that yell at you for judging are normally the worst judgers of people. They're the worst. I can't think of the word, but they do it far more than everybody else around them most of the time, is what I've found. We are not to condemn people. I mean, we're not to do certain things, but if you don't judge people, then how do you know who to deal with, how to deal with them, what to expect from them, how much to trust them or not trust them? You have to be able to judge or discern who you're dealing with. And beware of those who insist that they never judge and no one should ever judge anyone else.
You look at progressives, I'd almost bet money they're more judgmental and condemnation as well than the average Joe. And that's why they often want to kick you off Twitter and Facebook.
So they're fragile. They're emotionally fragile.
Yeah, fragile. Just a little disagreement, and we got to get rid of you, get you fired. Like, what?
See how
judgmental that is?
20 years ago, I had a guy working for me, and he was on the radio going, get here quick. This man's crazy. He's crazy. He's going to kill me. He's crazy. So I get there as fast as I can. There's a guy with a Freddy Krueger mask on and a meat cleaver, a real meat cleaver. So I just run straight up and grab his hand with the meat cleaver and yank it down, and I grab him by the face and I push him up against the wall. And it was Halloween, and he just thought he was being funny, but he scared this guy to death. He made a judgment fast, and I ripped the mask off of him. It was a local drunk that just thought he was funny. And I said, you know how close you came to me taking that meat cleaver from you and sticking it right between your eyes? But the other guy, he was believing every bit of it, man. He was on that radio blowing it up.
One guy who was trying to teach people how to influence others, this was for business purposes, but it could apply a lot of things. He says, your appearance does matter and your voice matters. If you say something, you first get close to them in a soft, calm, intelligent, you're saying like, I'm a normal person. I'm okay. It's all right to do business with me, to be friendly. But if you look weird and you don't talk or you say weird stuff, who knows what they might think of you, right? And I know people say, you shouldn't judge on appearances. You really think human nature doesn't judge on appearances?
Absolutely.
Now, maybe that's not the best way to evaluate people, but people will do it.
Well, if you've got 5 pounds of metal hanging off your face, your lips, your nose, your ears, your eyelids, your whatever, I'm going to have some opinions of some life choices you've made. If you got tattoos of skulls all over your head, I'm going to have some opinions about your life choices.
Yes, exactly.
So
We shouldn't condemn them. God can work on them later and straighten them out. And they may straighten themselves out someday. But we have to evaluate, do normal evaluation. I mean, because it's what you'd expect. Just do it on biblical basis. And I guess we have to look at 639. I believe this was also directed at the people and at their religious leaders. Luke 6:39.
And he spoke a parable to them. Can the blind lead the blind? Will they not both fall into the ditch?
Now, this is all in the same context of judge not that you be not judged, in the same discussion. And I think what Christ is saying is you have to learn to evaluate properly and telling the people, if you follow these religious leaders, he was very critical of the Pharisees. One of the reasons they wanted to kill him, but and they were jealous, very, very jealous of him. But they were spiritually blind. They had the spiritual perception of a hunk of rock. And it's, as funny as that seems, is it possible that if you use certain religious leaders and like a lot of people use celebrities on TV for their spiritual guidance. I won't mention any name because I may hit one of your old-time favorites. But at least from a biblical point of view, aren't some of them like the blind leading the blind? I'm following this real good talk show of some women on TV, and I just identify with them, and I get my spiritual, political, cultural advice from them. I go, oh man, there's a case of the blind leading the blind. And that, of course, obviously is not good. Let's go to 642. This is in that same, this is the second version of it, second description of it, but the same thing.
All right. Or how can you say to your brother, brother, let me remove the speck that is in your eye, when you yourself do not see the plank that is in your own eye? Hypocrite, first remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck that is in your brother's eye.
And I think what he's saying, your sins and your lack of humility and your hypocrisy and all the other bad things Christ describes in Pharisees was like blocking their spiritual eyesight, and they were spiritually blind as a bat. It was like crazy things are happening, even in America now. And like, this really gets me. They're mad at Florida for not wanting teaching sex and gender dysphoria to 4 and 5-year-olds. And the media is accusing Florida of being anti-gay and being bad. I can't understand why everybody in America is not mad at their critics and at Disney. I mean, are Americans that spiritually blind, Dave?
If I go to corporate America and I'm working a job in corporate America and I want to bring up somebody's sexual activity and body parts at work, they're going to fire me on the spot. That's called sexual harassment. So who can do this to a child who's prepubescent and should have no knowledge of any of that? You know?
Yep.
So
someone brought up someone online brought something up, and I didn't check for I didn't check for full context, but they're trying to figure out how you balance Matthew 7:1, I believe. Hold on.
In John 7.
There you go. That's it.
Well, Christ discussed this, and two different disciples wrote it up, Luke and Matthew. Is that what bothers him? The two disciples wrote up
No.
the same lesson?
John 7:24 says, "Do not judge according to appearance, but judge with righteous judgment."
Oh, by the way, and when Samuel looked at David's older brothers, who were apparently taller and better looking than he was, God told the prophet Samuel, don't judge the way people judge based on appearance. Judge like God does the inner spirit. Now that's a true statement. And what Samuel said also, that people judge on appearance. Both things are true. They're not a contradiction. People judge on appearance. But
So
God
my son-
judged the inner heart of the man.
When my son was a teenager, there was a knock on the door, and I opened the door, and there was a kid standing there with a blue mohawk and a chain from his ear to his nose, and just as punky as you can get. I opened the door, and it goes, "Hi, is Mikey home?" So I just slammed the door. Didn't respond. And my son gets up and he goes out, and he starts talking. He talks. This kid comes in. He says, "You know, Dad, why'd you slam the door on him like that?" I said, "Well, he hated me first." And so he says, "You'd like him if you gave him a chance." I said, "I'd like him if he put some pants on and cut his hair like a normal haircut and look like a decent human being. And then I'll give him a chance."
Now,
But the guy sent that comment. It's a very good coaching comment. It is true that God can see in the heart and people can't. And that's where the final condemnation or judgment goes. I'm admitting that. But also, what God told Samuel is true. People judge on appearance. And all we're saying is, since people do judge on appearance, we should be careful of our appearance. But secondly, this is where the nuance might be. You might think I'm trying to contradict about God seeing the inner person and not just the outer person. If you look at most Hollywood movies, there may be a few exceptions, very few. The heroes are handsome, and the heroines are beautiful, and the villains look like Charles Bronson. There are a couple other ugly guys who always play the villains. And I'm told that actually, as people, as actors, they were nice guys. Sometimes better guys than the real handsome stars. That's how Hollywood knows people respond. And obviously, if you meet somebody who's ugly, you shouldn't just assume that he's not as nice as a person who's beautiful.
and I think for context, your beauty or lack thereof it is not necessarily what's at play here. It's your maybe your monetary status, your appearance, how you're not that you intentionally dye your hair green, grow up, cut it in a mohawk and have a nose ring like a cow would on, or in your nose, but that's things you can control. But if you are just down on your luck, dirt poor, you kind of living just day to day. If things have some people are just poor. If you can't afford a nice suit, you don't judge them because they can't afford a nice suit. You don't judge them because of the condition they have come into, not what they've intentionally done to themselves. I mean, if you went to a doctor and you had implants put under your skin on your skull so you could screw little metal horns in your head, yeah, I can judge that guy has not made good life choices. But if things have had, maybe you've gotten a divorce, maybe things have just gone wrong, you lost your job, you're in bad shape, that's different. But if you do this to yourself, then you got a problem. If you got BLM tattooed on your forehead, you've made a poor life choice for employment. But if it's just things have just not worked out for you, you don't judge those people. Or race would be an excellent. You don't judge people based on what they've got. It's what they've done to themselves. Maybe you might want to question their life choices.
Yeah, it's like people might judge, if you got long, beautiful hair, I trust you. What can I do? I inherited this bald head, except for a little stuff on the side, which I mostly shave. But then on the other hand, some people think I look distinguished, and I like it. Either way, it doesn't matter. Either way, in other words, whether you're plain, distinguished, or attractive, you shouldn't, like you say, Ken, you shouldn't evaluate them on that. Or let's say someone comes to church and their clothes look bad. I would say they could probably clean themselves a little bit, though, but their clothes look ragged. And somebody else comes to church, and this guy has got fabulous clothes, and he's got a beautiful personality. And you're all over the one that's got the clothes, and the other guy you're treating like, don't talk to me. Stay in the corner and stay out of the way. That is violating a godly principle.
Well, that's another aspect to this. Like the Pharisees, don't judge them to be righteous based on their appearance, because they were nowhere near righteous. There's the flip side to this. Don't go all in on some guy or some woman who's dressed to the nines and this appears to have their act together until you get to know a little more about them.
Do you know, many of the Pharisees had long religious robes, and by the way, and some of the Hasidic Jews still do some of this today. They had various phylacteries across their forehead and their arm with the 10 Commandments on it, and various religious badges and awards. At least according to some commentaries. So they walked around, and some of them even carried, if they're rich enough, they had a servant with a crest on a horn, and they blow the horn when they put money in the coffers at the temple. So everybody would look at them and see them. They looked impressive religiously. And there was even some that wore a fishnet over their face when they were in the crowded market, so no net would get in their nose. I'm not making this up, you see. That's how pure they were. I mean, and you see all this, they got the 10 Commandments here and other religious stuff. Wouldn't you be impressed?
Yeah, not so much.
But that's the kind of thing, but they were really the blind leading the blind. And part of that is, let's go to Isaiah 5:20. Many of the social and sometimes religious leaders of today can fall into what happened to Judah when they were in decadent decline.
Well, I had the wrong one on it. Okay. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight.
Their virtue signaling, man, I'm for whatever you think is the worst sexual perversion, I'm for that. And their virtue signaling how magnanimous and what word am I thinking of? When they virtue signal that they can accept anything. Oh, there's a word that'll come to me in a minute. I'm having a Joe Biden moment. But anyway, you get the general idea that they're very accepting of anything. And I believe there are even churches now, because they're afraid of tax status or losing some givers, they will not label evil evil.
Romans 1, start in 22 and read it. The last scripture says, not only those who do these things, but those who are accepting of those who do these things. So, not acceptable in my place.
Yeah, that's what's going on. A lot of the cultural leaders put evil for good and good for evil. And we're living to see it right now. They're saying stuff that 20 years ago I wouldn't have believed.
Well, I know. They're trying to get us to accept pedophilia now.
That's coming down the pike. You wait and see. I could almost see some of the arguments, but I'm going to give them to you now. By the way, Christ will be the final judge of men, not men. So it's true we shouldn't judge others as far as condemning them ultimately, but we should be able to give people who are willing to accept it good advice that you're going down a lifestyle that's not good for you.
I had a family come in and she said, would you accept our teenage daughter? She's 16, 17 years old, whatever. I said, well, I don't know why not. She said, well, she's non-binary. I didn't know what it meant at first. I had to process it. And I guess it showed in my face. And I said, oh, sure. That's not a reason to not accept somebody. However, my other students may not be as accepting of it and harm her. So I don't know how to answer your question. They didn't come back.
Well, it worked.
Yeah, that was good.
I will work things into my sales. If they're, homosexual or whatever, I will find a way to work a term in there that makes them uncomfortable and they go, maybe not here. And I just do it casually. Like, I don't notice you're homosexual, but I'll throw something out there that says, this guy don't like homosexuals. It's not going to fit in around here.
Which locker room do you use? Never mind. I said, get me, because all in trouble nowadays.
My last place, I had male, female restrooms, and on the door that exited to the dumpster, it said trans. You open the back door and there's the dumpster. That's where you go.
Okay, let's go to 1 Corinthians 4:3.
All right. But with me, it is a very small thing that I should be judged by you or by a human court. In fact, I do not even judge myself, for I know nothing against myself. Yet I am not justified by this, but he who judges me is the Lord.
And by the way, there's a scripture I should have included. There's one, John 5:22, and a few others, where it makes it clear that Christ has the ultimate judgment on every man in the very, very end. So Paul is by the way, Paul is defending himself against his critics. And anyway, you got to keep that in mind. He said, don't judge me. He didn't even judge himself. Let's go to verse 5. Please, Ken.
All right. Therefore, judge nothing before the time until the Lord comes, who will both bring to light the hidden things of darkness and reveal the counsels of the hearts. Then each one's praise will come from God.
Yeah, looking at people's heart deep down is tough. That's why Christ will be the final judge. But I was thinking about what you're saying, Ken. Some things, like if you're just, don't have hair and you're not super handsome and whatever, you can't really help that. And people shouldn't judge you, because you don't look like Superman or whatever the heroes are supposed to look like. But if your lifestyle, like I saw 3 kids come into the store as I was leaving it yesterday, and they had this goth look. They had this dark makeup and some stuff hanging out of their nose and mouth. And they look like walking death. Have you seen that dark goth look?
They're still doing that? That's like 25 years old.
I know. That's the problem. It used to be big for junior high school, and junior high principals used to be afraid that many of those kids would commit suicide. But I saw them, and they were dressed in all black. They almost look like something from a zombie movie or, I don't know, they're weird. And I'm thinking now, if those kids came over to your house and said, hey, I want to babysit for you, a party with your kids in your house while you're gone, oh, you would say, oh, that's wonderful.
Not if you're smart.
I mean, there's got to be some problem somewhere if they're dressed like that and wearing that kind of makeup and putting those things in their lip. And I didn't really study their face too carefully because I didn't want to. Are you staring at me? I was kind of looking at him, but trying not to look at him, if you know what I mean. Like, wow, this stuff is still around.
I'd have just stared at him. They want you to stare at him anyway. That's why they look goofy like that. They didn't want you to stare at them. They wouldn't do anything to get stared at, right?
You're probably right. You're probably right. They look crazy. They walk crazy. They're dressed all in black, and it's just the whole picture is sort of like The Walking Dead, sort of Satan. I don't know. It had that Dracula look. Plus,
so when I was dating my wife, I went over to Winn-Dixie or Walmart, and these two boys were just like pumped up. And they said, hey, man, buy some cigarettes. I said, I don't buy any cigarettes. There's a white kid and a black kid. And the white kid started running his mouth. What, you old man or whatever? I'm like, 32, 33. He's like, old man, you two whatever. And he gets in my face, and he starts going, hit me and go to prison. Hit me and go to prison. So I walked inside, and I'm thinking, what can I do to this kid? So I bought a package of peanut M&Ms, and I walked out, and he came straight back to me, old man, and I just spit it all over him. Right in his face, I covered it and chewed up peanut M&Ms. And the black kid goes, hey, that was on him. I didn't say nothing, sir. I didn't say nothing.
And I just happened by accident, right?
I just blasted him with those M&Ms. He was just chocolate and peanut everywhere. And I got out of my car and I left. I said, man, I sure hope nobody calls the cops because it is battery, but nothing ever happens. He just had to go clean up somewhere.
Have you ever heard this expression about people running into muggers in New York City, how they were worried about it? And Tyrus said, oh, I just wish they would try to mug me. I just wish they would try. Is that how you feel sometimes, Dave?
Not anymore.
He ain't 32 anymore.
I ain't 32 anymore.
And the muggers carry 9mm with them nowadays.
So do I. My nephew came out of someplace and was walking through an alleyway, and a homeless guy goes, hey, give me $20. He said, I can give you $20. So this guy got in his face, give me $20. So my nephew apparently got chesty with him, and the homeless guy kept on. So finally my nephew hauls off and punches this homeless guy right in the mouth. Some other homeless guy turns around and shoots him. Had nothing to do with the whole thing. So
wow.
He lived. I mean,
people are violent and crazy now, aren't they?
He took a bullet from somebody who was not even involved in it.
Yeah, I tell you, people are. And it's worse. I heard a story this morning on the radio. Guy committed 2 very, very violent crimes and was out in no time. Maybe he was a teenager, an older teenager. And after the third one, he's still back out on the streets. I thought, what is wrong with this prosecutor? Some city with a George Soros prosecutor. I think this is crazy. I think he killed one of them. I can't understand why he's back out in the street on a no bail. I don't have all the details, heard on the radio, but it was unbelievable.
Is that San Francisco?
I can't remember if San Francisco or not, but
I think isn't that the son of Bernardine Dohrn and I never can remember that guy's name.
Charles Manson?
No, not Charles Manson. The other, no.
The weather guy.
Yeah, Weather Underground guy. Isn't that their kid or adopted kid or something?
There's some real sickos out there in society nowadays. And, oh, well. And if you run into one of them, you better evaluate them as somebody to be cautious around. Well, there is a period coming in the future, which we've called the Great White Throne Judgment Period, in which Obviously, the millennium will come when Christ comes back, and many, many people will earn salvation then, and God will turn the world to Christ. However, there's another period after that called the Great White Throne, where everybody is resurrected and gets a chance, except for those that God has already put in the category of the incorrigibly wicked and defiantly wicked, and just to the lake of fire only. Let's go to Revelation 20. This is real judgment, the real judgment that counts, that we can't do, only Christ can do that.
Then I saw a great white throne and him who sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God, and the books were open.
The word books, by the way, books in Greek means biblios, and in English it's Bible. It goes Greek to English Bible. So Bible just means a collection of these sacred books that have been canonized, and that's really what it means. The books are open. We would argue that the vast majority of the world has not had the Bible completely open to them. Quite a bit of the Bible is still closed to them. They just don't get it. Paul even said about the religious leaders of Judah, his nation, and many of these people were experts in Hebrew. He said, when the Old Testament is read to them, even to this day, this is 2 Corinthians 4, there's like a veil still on their heart. In other words, they see the Bible, and they can translate it like experts, but they don't understand it.
90% of the population's never even read a first word out of a Bible.
Yeah. And they don't really understand it. But the day is coming where the book will be open to them. Let's go and read the rest of that.
And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged according to their works by the things which were written in the books. The sea gave up the dead who were in it, death and Hades delivered up the dead who were in them. And they were judged, each one according to his works.
Who knows? They were judged by things written in the books, meaning the Bible. They will learn. I'm guessing the vast majority of people, once it's obvious who is God, the devil will be locked away, and the Bible will be there. The truth will be, and many of us saints will be there to help, and whatever else God wants to do, angels as well. The truth will be available to people, and they'll realize how bad the world was in their first life. And I think most will repent. I think some good-hearted, humble people probably, the Bible will take them many years and they'll be ready for the kingdom. I think, I can think of some senior people I knew. They didn't know the full truth, but they were humble, hardworking people. I think they'll fall in line real quickly. Let's go to Hebrews 8:11.
None of them shall teach his neighbors, and none his brothers, saying, Know the Lord, for all shall know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them.
Now, and I like the word all shall know. Think about it. No one will have to say, the preachers go around, know the Lord, brother. Do you know the Lord? They won't have to say that because the knowledge of God will be everywhere. And I assume we'll have church convention meetings, halls in every little town, and everybody, it'll be harder to not keep the Sabbath than to keep it. Everybody will be doing it, and at least a fair number of people will be going to the feast every year and other holy days, and they'll be talking about the Bible. And there are other scriptures indicate people want to do something wrong. Beam, somebody appears behind them and says, "This is the way, walk you in it." Oops, we don't do that anymore. Think of what a world that will be. Nobody will get away with a whole lot of stuff now. There's probably all kind of evil schemes and people planning evil, drug dealers, sex traffickers, evil dictators, people in China running camps which are, I don't know if they're as bad as Auschwitz, but they're in that general category. Isn't that a wonderful thought?
more bad stuff.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? None of that will be available. That will be absolutely wonderful.
Remove a lot of stumbling blocks for people.
Yeah. Because, a lot of people will say, I don't believe in God in a world where there is evil. And it is true. God allows mankind to do his own thing. And with some bad influences out there, I mean, God will stop it during the Great White Throne. Everyone will be in a controlled atmosphere then. But right now, there are religious lies, cultural lies, academic lies, philosophical lies. People are living out lies, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And almost every time a new TV show comes, we had to stop watching. 1 or 2 new ones just came around. They say or throw things in that are just not. I know they're propagandizing us. And then, anyway, I won't go into the details. It's just like they're intentionally dirtying up the public and brainwashing us.
Yes, I cannot watch any network television. I don't watch any network television.
I watch the older shows I can find on Wi-Fi. Not that they're perfect, but anything that's new, I can't. I'm hoping, probably I'm kidding myself, that they're bringing out a new show that reminds me of the old Star Trek. I'm hoping it won't mess it up. But what do you bet they're going to mess it up?
Yeah, I might have seen an episode or 2 of that. I think I might have. I don't know.
It's coming out in a week or 2. I think.
Maybe it's not the same thing.
Yeah, but we shall see. And if I like a show, that means its shelf life is not long. Hollywood will get rid of it. Isn't that?
Yep, that's
one
true.
of the few that I still like is called NYPD Blue. Hope I got the title right. About the police commissioner's family in New York. That has pretty good. There's something about it I like. And it's politically incorrect too, which I like as well. They were even putting down the canceling the police when it wasn't popular for anybody in Hollywood to not be for defunding the police.
No, that's good.
I like it. Anyway, but you're right. Everything in this world is pulling us down. But it'll be different then. Let's go to Habakkuk 2:14, please.
For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea.
Let's go to Isaiah 11:9.
They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea.
Think of a world where nobody gets hurt. I imagine once they get it going, you won't need navies, armies, police force, National Guards. You may not even need hospitals, maybe just a few little neighborhood clinics for certain things. It'll be safe. Isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
And when you read the rest of Isaiah, that same section, the predators, their nature will be changed, and they will not. You'll have to worry about mountain lions eating your kids or something in the woods. Or in Florida, worry about the gators getting you and your kids, right?
You can have a pet gator.
Right now, they're very, very active. Right now, they're very active. They're everywhere.
Why are there so many active now?
It's mating season.
So it's dangerous to be around canals and creeks?
Golf courses.
Even golf courses?
They're always in Florida. You play golf, you hit the ball, then you sneak up on it.
Keep it on the fairway.
Yeah, because I've seen a ton of alligators on golf courses, and our trails. We have trails that we walk, and we'll see them out there sometimes.
Do they come out mostly at night?
Oh no, no, they're out whenever they're out. They're easier to find them at night than during the day. At night, you just shine a light, and their eyes are fluorescent orange, and they'll pop right up.
Alligator is really designed like a submarine. In water, most of their body could be submerged, so you may not notice how dangerous they are. Well, until he comes out of the water and goes after you.
They're only dangerous if you bother a nest, or they're hungry. Otherwise, they just ignore you. My brother and I were laying by a pond one day after services. We went down to the local little park and we laid by the pond, and we were just laying by each other talking about services. And a few minutes later, I said, "Let's get up and walk." And I sat up, and two of them come up and laid down next to us. And we just got up and walked off. They're
not afraid of people, but they're not. Most of the time, they're not hungry and out to eat you.
Right. They just. I had one time chase me. I had one time hiss at me. He hissed at me because I threw a sandwich at him, and he wasn't hungry. He realized I threw something at him, so he hissed at me. And he was a good 12-footer. And then I had one. I slowed down because it was a really big 10, 12-foot gator on the side of the road. I slowed down to look at it, and it stood up and ran at my truck. So I went and told the neighborhood guy. I said he's down there on the path, and he's aggressive. So I don't know what happened. I took off, and he said, "Well, I ain't going to wrestle it," and he took off down that way. So, but there were people pushing baby buggies and stuff down there, and I didn't want.
People aren't allowed to shoot them, right?
Oh no, you can shoot people down here, but you cannot shoot alligators down here. If an alligator breaks in your house, you have to leave your house and call animal control.
You can't shoot him when he's inside your own house?
No.
What?
If a 16-year-old breaks in your house, you can unload 3 magazines in his chest, and that's okay. But you touch that alligator, even in your own house, they're going to arrest you.
I tell you, our policy about wild animals is just crazy.
Alligators are a protected species, and humans are not.
But it's not like there's a big shortage of alligators in Florida, right?
No, I mean there's alligator restaurants.
At any rate, well, that's how crazy the world has gotten. People, for instance, you can abort babies, and 2 states want to be able to abort the baby up to 4 weeks after it survived the abortion. It's still alive, out of the mother's body. I'm not making that up. They're trying to get that through the law. You could abort human babies, but you can't mess with baby seals or smash certain of those animals' eggs. Don't ask me why. Because these wild animals' eggs and babies are more protected than human babies. Is that crazy or what? It's crazy. Well, I know we're at the end of the show. I wanted to just mention this. Here's what one commentator said. He thinks that the Progressive Party in America wants to lead us into war with Russia and to use that crisis to diminish our personal freedom, maybe find a way to steal another election or two. And he convinced me that could be true. And we might actually make Bible prophecy come true by our own bad government.
Yeah. I mean, we're there. The food shortage that's coming is man-made. It's intentional. It's not just if they would have left things alone, there wouldn't be any food shortage coming. There's a huge shortage of raw materials right now. I mean, it's the supply chain, they call it, shortage of goods, and is getting worse by the day. I mean, it's just getting horrible. So it's none of this is good, and it's all man-made.
Here's something that's odd. Now, I'm basing this on 2 or 3 experts who claim it's true. I know it's debatable. Our economic sanctions against Russia are now backfiring. It's maybe going to hurt our economy more than it's going to hurt the Russian economy. The ruble is now higher than it was the day before they invaded Ukraine. That much is a fact. And some of the ingredients that we may not be able to ship from Russia will hurt fertilizer prices and maybe even the amount of fertilizer. At least it could affect wheat production. But also, do you know, the fact that we're not drilling all our own oil means that a lot of the corn, which normally would go to feed people, you know where that corn is now going to go?
In your gas tank.
Because as long as gasoline's like $100 a barrel or more than that, it's more valuable for the farmers to use that food for ethanol than for cornflakes and corn oil and corn chips and all that other stuff. And corn syrup was a big part of our food supply. And I'm thinking, I always thought that was stupid. We have plenty of oil and we're going to burn food. And this is, you know, I know they don't like fossil fuels, but oh well. In other words, aren't you a little worried that if they suck us into war, we could lose a lot of personal freedoms in America?
Well, that's why they want it. They want that war so they can take away more freedoms from us. They want that war to affect the election. They want this war to accomplish a lot of things that COVID is, since it wound down and people really push back against that. Problem is, people are not all behind this war that they want to drag us into. There's going to be harder to use this war with Russia to get everybody on one team than it was for COVID.
I can almost see their logic. They've already used it on some reporters. Let's say we, like we did in Vietnam, first they sent in advisors to help the South Vietnamese use American military equipment. Then some of our advisors got killed by the communists. Then they put in more advisors, and then regular American troops. Anyway, I ended up in Nam, but I saw it coming, though. I could see what they were up to. But I was only 19 and I saw it. Now it's even more abundant. But think of this. You criticize the government's policy, or even any other policy, you're unpatriotic. We're at war. We got young boys in Ukraine fighting the Russians. And you see, you say anything they don't like, see, you're unpatriotic. And maybe they can put you in jail, shut you off social media. You know what I'm saying? Shut you down completely.
Yeah, that's what they'll use the new Ministry of Truth for.
And see, once you go to war, you know, everybody has to be patriotic. That means you have to support. I mean, I understand patriotism. I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying I feel bad the Ukrainians being invaded by the Russians, and Russia and Ukraine have a bad history together. And they used to be part of the Russian Empire, Soviet Union. You know, they've had some border problems for years. So I feel sorry for them. But does America have to get so involved in everybody else's war?
Susan brought up a good point. If somehow we get attacked on our soil, because they keep talking about nukes, you know, they keep talking about Russia got nukes and Putin's threatening nukes. If something happens on our soil, then they would be able to get most everybody on the same team. And they're not beyond doing it either.
Here's a possibility. You know, you hear that false flag. Hitler did it in Poland. They actually set it up where they blamed the Poles for attacking across the borders from some German, I think, radio station, whatever. It was actually fake. It was a
radio station. I remember. Yeah, I remember it.
Well, what if they did something like that? Maybe cross the Polish border and attack some Americans on that side of the border and blame the Ruskies for it. Or here's another possibility. The Russians claim we're messing with their economy for a whole bunch of things we're doing, and they decide to hit us with a hack attack. Maybe they hit that Colonial Pipeline again, and all of a sudden we can't get oil, or they close something important.
Or the grid.
Would would America then feel justified in going to war?
Or the grid.
Oh yeah, the electric grid in a place like California. And I've heard people say that things like that could be hacked. Have you heard that, Ken?
Yes, actually, I have. And I've heard that some of the equipment that we use has it comes from overseas, and the equipment we use has got built-in doors, so it can be hacked.
No, the Chinese built a lot of this stuff, and if they're allied with the Russians, they could help the Russians hack something important. Would that give America justification to go to war?
Yeah.
They've hacked a power grid in California or something, right?
Well, California is doing enough to their own power grid. They barely can keep the lights on now in California.
They are rolling blackouts. You can only charge your car on certain days. But I could see some Russian hackers, their government could just give a wink and a nod. See if you could hack something substantial in America, since they're messing with our economy, or trying to. But they claim the Russian economy is coming back with the help of China, a little bit of help from India, and a few others. And it's not actually the things that we've done to hurt them have also hurt us. As the dollar drops, because the Russians are forcing or pressuring, I don't know how much and also because our government has messed up with our allies like Saudi Arabia and some others, they're now no longer using petrodollars, and the Russians are demanding that people buy their oil in rubles, and some countries are doing it. The dollar has dropped.
Yeah, and Russia's intake from oil is doubled.
And as you realize, if the dollar dropped, I mean, many of the things we buy from overseas will cost more. We already have an inflation problem, more like 15%, the real inflation. It could get worse.
Oh, it's getting worse, out of doubt.
And so we think that we're hurting the Russians, but we're also hurting ourselves. And here's part of it that I think is prophetic. In the past, Europe kind of relied on America for protection. They may be cheating on NATO, but they relied on America for protection. Just a few weeks ago, Germany is doubling their military budget. And even though they didn't want to get too involved, they're promising to send heavy weapons like tanks and stuff to Ukraine. Germany is bulking up. And I think those countries in Europe see American leadership as defunct. They have to go it on their own. Can you see this as a first step toward a united Europe as a military rival to America?
Yep, absolutely.
Not just someone that we take care of, but they can't trust us anymore. I mean, would you trust Joe Biden for your security? And I realize it ain't funny because that's what we're doing, but oh well. So anyway, this could be, and someone like Zelensky could be one of the 10 or the beast. I don't think he is, but anybody that they praise so much, I always get suspicious of. The beast is going to be praised by the world. Not until the very end, I think, will people realize this guy is evil. They will actually praise him and think he's wonderful.
Well,
hope I have shocked you when I say Zelensky's not as wonderful as we all think he is.
He's not.
Okay, not that I'm supporting Putin as being a great guy either. Nope. Well, I guess it's time for us to quit. And I want to thank everybody for watching.
All right, and hope everybody enjoys the rest of your Sabbath. And we hope to see you again here next week. And thanks, everyone, and good night, everybody. Well, thanks for watching our best of program. I just hope everybody got a chance to hang out in the chat room and enjoy the Sabbath evening. Again, everyone, enjoy the rest of this weekend, and we'll see you back here with a live program next week. Good night, everybody.
We're happy you could make it, and so glad you are here, and hope that we've been able to make God's word more clear. Until next time, may God be with you in everything you try. But for now, till next week, we have to say goodbye.